Well, I hope you can forgive me today because I've decided to swap what I'd normally do on Sunday with today because I got very excited by this blog post that came out yesterday relating to FM24. So we're going to shift everything across a day to talk about this and what it means for my FM24 saves and kind of to explain to you why I'm so excited about this as someone who almost exclusively does long-term saves on the channel. So hopefully you're looking forward to it too. If you haven't seen it yet, the big first deep dive into features for FM24, then we'll talk a bit through it now. If you're looking forward to it, please do chuck a thumbs up on the video. If you're looking for the long-term FM23 stories, they'll be back as normal tomorrow, and that will include Sunday this week as well. But let's talk about the first deep dive into new features for FM24. It was released on Tuesday afternoon, and it relates to the first big feature announcement, which was smarter transfers, squad building and finance. Now, we had a look through the little roadmap on Sunday and what that meant. You can find that video up in the eye above. But the first one of those, as I said in that video, was the one that really excited me the most, because I'm a man, for those of you who aren't regulars here, whose main story on the channel is a head coach one, where I'm working as a manager with no say in transfers, contracts or staffing, and relying on a director of football. And that, of course, in Football Manager, relies on AI management when it comes to recruitment, squad building and finance. And this year, it's fair to say there have been a few hiccups, from one director of football signing 5 left backs on deadline day instead of any of the positions we needed, to one just having a fire sale whenever they fancied despite the finances being great, to another selling all the homegrown players and another selling all the ones that suited the tactic I'd built. So some of the little detail that was in this article got me very excited as a result, because I see, potentially, if what's discussed here happens, being a real game changer for this series. So let's go through it bit by bit and talk about why we're excited and what impact it could have on our save, Football Manager in general, and some of the popular types of stories such as Builder Nations, Road to Glories, etc. So let's get through the introduction and into the nitty gritty, because the first thing is bracing for more transfer battles. Now, the big introduction to this is that FM24 wants to try and replicate recent global developments and an ever more volatile transfer market. This sounds pretty promising, because trying to deal with what the Saudi League's going to do and even trying to predict it is pretty incredible. But this is maybe where they've been quite clever, because they've added a bit more variety to it to try and shape different directions instead of us all seeing the same transfers and types of moves in our save. Immediately off the bat when explaining this though, they've said a couple of things that, for me as a person who's been playing Football Manager for 20 years, certainly gets the juices flowing. First of all, they're making AI rivals buy and sell players with a clear identity involving a lot of under the hood work. So the first of those is smarter opposition recruitment. AI managers considering form and reputation, not just current ability, which has been probably a main criticism for 2 or 3 years. A bit later on, which we'll get to, they focus on potential ability rather than just current ability too. And that also involves in the way they develop players later on. There's so many little things in there that are exciting. But the bit that probably impressed me the most, and I'll be intrigued to see if they can pull it off, was this paragraph right here. AI managers now geared up to recognise imbalances within their squad. Please let that be the end of 5 left backs on deadline day from a director of football. Please let it be the end, I beg. In essence, this means they'll look to fill attribute gaps in the squad and of course find players who suit their tactical style. So depending on what tactic you've set up, which for us in a head coach save is crucial, we'll base a save based on the players that are at a club when we arrive. And what we want is our director of football to sign based on that. Not to bring in 5 left backs when we're playing with wing backs. Not to bring in 5 left midfielders when we're playing a narrow diamond, etc, etc. So a manager with a gegenpress approach will get players with high stamina, high work rate, players who can run for 90 minutes. It all sounds very promising, doesn't it? Of course, we've got to bear in mind that there may be flaws with this and it might not work perfectly when it comes off. What happens if there's a global trend and so many managers are playing with the same tactic? Do we then get everyone battling for the same players and more players that are just available and not moving anywhere? There could be issues with it, but on paper, this sounds like an incredible change, and it's something we've all been calling for. AI transfer values, market values, the way they sign players, and the fact that they generally build older squads because it's all based on current ability, that's going to change. And if you're getting competition, so you can't just go and sign the best potential wonder kids in the future, then that could be a real game changer for long-term saves. And that's what we're focused on primarily here. We've also seen the option that they're potentially looking for younger players when it comes to backup rotation options to try and maybe focus on potential ability a bit more and make profits for the club in the future. And that improved logic apparently will also apply to outgoing transfers, with AI making much more sensible decisions with loans for young players. Hopefully that's the end of the days of every club asking for a 500 grand a month loan fee if you're in League One or the Championship for a Premier League player. If it's felt a player is lacking in terms of physicality, they'll look to move to a more physical team. So you could actually sign players that are suited to your style. But there are, again, concerns with that potentially. I remember many years ago, maybe FM12, 13 era, whenever QPR first got to the Premier League in that stage, because I had a save with Plymouth, I think in League Two at the time, and I had an affiliation with QPR, and every player agreed to join because I matched their style, and we ended up with a ridiculous team. So there are going to have to be some sort of measures on that, so it's not too easy, with reputation still factored in, etc. But potentially that is another great one for us if we're going to be doing a lower league English save or managing in, say, Scotland, Northern Ireland, whatever, to be able to get good players on loan from higher reputation clubs could well work out if we can prove that we're going to match their physical style. I guess the only other worry with that is it going to lead to loads of discussions with managers about, you promised to play direct and build this player's physical style, but you haven't, as we so often see with the playing time and the playing position at the moment. Ultimately, though, this is going to be the main feature of the game for me. I've said it for so many years. If we can get a game where the AI thinks as close to a human manager as possible and is able to build sensible, smart squads with future planning and even future financial planning involved in it, I'll be a happy man. Forget what happens with a match engine. Forget what happens with other elements of the game. If the AI can nail that, it will make summer transfer windows both more frustrating but also more fun to be involved into. So let's hope it does do what it says right at the end there, become more authentic and realistic. Let's move on to the second section though, which is variations to player development, because we saw in that previous transfer section a focus more on potential ability than just current ability. And that is reflected in the way that matchday squads are going to be picked, because they can't just sign those players and then not feature them at all because their current ability is worse. So previously, it says AI teams were less likely to pick youth prospects because they had low current ability scores. We've all played League Cup ties where we've seen brilliant teams out against us. I think we know that that's probably true. But now, those talents will have a higher probability of being on the bench and will see more playing time when teams are ahead or controlling games. Now, hopefully that means that the AI won't be flirting with tactical styles quite as much and making big swings from 2-0 up to 2-0 down. We've also worked on how AI prioritises matches throughout the season. You should see improved rotation instead of just knackered players coming out every 2 or 3 days. There's also tweaks to player development, and this is something I've been crying out for years too. It is better in this year's game, and I should say that, but some see an accelerated improvement early before hitting a ceiling, and others being late developers and late bloomers. One of the things I love to see in FM is the Jamie Vardy, the Andre Gray, the whatever other story you want, where players are playing in non-league or League 2 until 25, 26, and then suddenly shoot through the divisions. As my club Luton Town have shown with so many players, you can easily develop and adapt to the higher level if you've got the right attitude. And for this, it looks like another promising sign on that front. So really good to see that change, in addition to all the user interface ones mentioned as well. If those two features are right, it could be the biggest change off the pitch we've seen in Football Manager for years. And with the big match engine ones coming next season, that's enough for me for now. Imagine how excited we're all going to be next week when the set piece one comes along. We have got to also talk about finances though, because navigating financial fair play and balancing the books are the two other big mentions in this blog. We talk about balancing the books, and probably does relate to the changes above, because how often did you see it in previous editions of the game? We certainly saw it in a head coach year after year, where you get to a squad and because they've based all their signings on current ability, they're paying big money for players between, say, 26 and 32. And then they've not got a sell-on value for them. So they're ending up losing those players for far less than they've signed them for, and in some cases for nothing. So to have those changes will obviously affect this anyway. But across the game, it seems like we're going to get a lot more news items relating to finance and income and expenditure. So maybe a bit more detail and clarity to some of the commercial changes in the game. So when you sign a Chinese player or you go on a tour pre-season, maybe you'll get a bit more information on that. But key financial information, having a bit of backbone to it and seeing how it's been developed is always going to be important to the club. One of the things I really like though, and could well be overboard in the first game, so let's hope it's not, is when you've overspent your available funds, you'll notice we've incorporated negative transfer budgets. If you go into the red, you'll receive an inbox item that informs you need to sell or get rid of transfer clauses in order to generate fresh income. Examples and candidates for both are included in the inbox item, which probably takes the backroom advice to another level. And of course, we've got a screenshot for it there. But the control will be relinquished to the board if you are unable to bring enough money back, and they could choose to sell your players or move people on. Now, it's almost creating a head coach environment in your own save, but it is something I've asked for before. Talking about managing a club when you're over budget, there's not really a punishment for it in FM. It's just like, oh, you can't scout anymore, or, oh, well, we're not very happy with your management. We might sack you if a few other things go wrong. But there's not a genuine punishment, is there? So for the board to take control and say, right, well, if you don't choose how we're going to get this money back or you can't raise it, we're going to sell the first player we get a bid for. It's almost recreating that situation before or after you go into administration as a club. And I really like the idea of it. I hope it's not over-egged in game because it shouldn't happen all the time and it shouldn't happen too quickly. But I do like the idea towards the end of a window, a bit of panic from the board and saying, we're going to get rid of a player here for you. You need to raise some money. So it will hopefully make people think a bit more about spending too much. And hopefully for the first real time in FM, create a genuine big consequence for it. I love the sound of it. A lot of people are going to complain when they get caught out for it first time. But if we're going to be doing a lower league English save this year, which is my plan for the second story, how many times do you think, oh, I'll just take a gamble on this free agent, and if I go 200 quid a week over my wage budget, it's fine, we'll go on a little FA Cup run or something later in the year. Well, this is going to stop us doing it, and that is something I love the sound of. So big props to SI for that one. I'm really excited for it. The financial fair play stuff is probably not too much outside what you'd expect, but it has got a bit more detail about a club that's been placed into administration, which is something I still don't think happens enough in FM in the lower leagues, but maybe it will affect a club I might be managing in FM24. When your club goes into administration, you'll be notified that transfer funds have been withdrawn, and the administrators will listen to and consider any reasonable offers for transfers, which is something that didn't happen so much in previous years. If you're unable to meet wages, the Players Association will step in and you'll have a transfer embargo. So there's a whole new level of detail and consequence to administration, in addition to overspending on your budgets. The final big change, though, is one that it's almost a shame wasn't in FM for this year with our Build a Nation save at Distillery, which is new and dynamic income streams. It's not just expenditure where SI have made changes, there's also greater fluctuation to income, creating more dynamism and intrigue and variation in every career. The big one is fixed length TV deals, and the changes show the deal's value and the percentage effect it has on prize money for the seasons the agreement covers. So knowing that in advance, whether it's gone up or down is going to be great, and obviously creates new possibilities if you're in a Build a Nation save, where you're gradually working the standard and the reputation of a league up. There's also information on parachute payments, which might be quite crucial for my Twitch beta stream save with that club above my head there. Ticket prices, sponsorship, and again, more detail to messages where we just currently get numbers. So I really love the sound of that. The season ticket league table, nice little touch, but again, probably one that won't be great reading for a Luton fan with the size of our stadium in the Premier League. But I think SI sum it up perfectly at the bottom here. This greater information is designed to improve the clarity of how finances work in game. And I think that's always been the big question is, yes, we can see all these numbers and maybe sometimes we thought the finances prop up a little too easily, but just getting the clarity of where that's come from, how that money's being generated, rather than just seeing millions of pounds listed as miscellaneous each year, I think it is going to make a big difference to the player. And hopefully, if the other stuff above works well, will make us a bit more financially prudent rather than just continuously overspending on budgets and hoping the money continues to be there. There's a few little tiny changes listed at the bottom here too, and a few of them could be very important for future saves, and they're ones that I'm a big fan of. We'll get to the biggest one in a minute, which just made me go, oh, thank God at last. But firstly, another one that's pretty cool. Loan income and expenditure listed separately from permanent deal ones. That's something that's going to be a nice little touch and make things easier to see. But here's the big one. This paragraph, I don't know how long I've waited for it. For clubs in the lower divisions, English non-league for that situation for us, they will now turn professional at the point of promotion rather than at the end turnover of the season on the 24th of June or whatever. Hallelujah, I hear you all say. Conversely, there will be more discernible sporting and financial setbacks from not switching back from professional to semi-pro following relegations in the lower divisions. Now that could have a big impact in your Build a Nation save, or if you take over a club that's tumbling the divisions in England or one of the big nations. So a really intelligent transfer market is what this game and this blog is suggesting we're going to get. And if we get it, I'm going to be the happiest man you will find playing Football Manager in 2024, because almost all of my frustrations this year have come from that. If we get to the set piece creator and they say they're going to put the wall in the right place for out-swinging free kicks, tell you what, I'll be singing this game's name from the rooftops, because so far, this is looking really promising. I don't think many of us expected too much change, with FM25 being announced in advance and a big changes to the animation engine. But this is far more exciting than I thought it was going to be. And I just hope that they can get it in the game, get it right and as described. Because if they do, I think us as long-term save players are going to be in for a treat. I'm looking forward to hearing about the ones in the coming weeks, in particular, the intermediaries, the help for offloading players, and of course the set piece creator too. But what did you think of the first FM24 feature blog? For me, I was getting very excited. I know a few of you in the Discord were as well. But let me know in the comments of this blog, what is your favourite feature? What bit's going to affect the type of saves you do most? And who are you planning to manage first in FM24? Has it changed on the basis of this blog? Let me know all of that down in the comments. If you enjoyed this little look through, please do chuck a thumbs up on the video. Apologies to those who were expecting the Build a Nation today. It will be back tomorrow as normal. We'll rotate every day, including Sunday from now on. But I was so excited about this blog that I just had to show you. I'm hoping it's going to make a big change to our saves. We'll have our plans announced in a couple of weeks' time. I've got to wait for a certain court decision before deciding what to do. That might give you a clue as to who I'm planning to manage in my one club save. If you want to stay up to date and find out, subscribe and turn that notification bell on. Daily FM23 videos from 2 long-term stories. Daily videos once FM24's released. And come and follow me on Twitch as I'll be managing my beloved Luton Town and trying to survive in a Premier League as soon as that beta comes. Thank you very much for watching this one. I hope you were as excited by it as me. And I'll see you back here tomorrow as the long-term stories resume.